Okay, hopefully we're back again. Happy Wednesday morning. This is your 9 a.m. weekly dose of RHI's Stories of Courage, Hope, Attitude, and Inspiration, brought to you by our awesome sponsors, Wilson Kehoe Winningham. My name is Mindy Fox. I'm the Executive Director of the RHI Foundation, and our special guest today is a longtime friend of mine, Audie Kemp. I'm excited to hear so much of your story that I don't know. So thanks for joining us. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. Before we get started, if you'd like to make a gift to the RHI Foundation in honor of Audie or any of our patients, past patients, feel free to click on the link. We'll post in just a little bit and you can make a gift. So every dollar helps. We're a nonprofit hospital. It takes philanthropic gifts, individual funding to make us the best rehabilitation in the Midwest. That's not something that can happen on the operational budget of a nonprofit. So your gifts help us provide the best possible care and outcomes. Thank you. So Audie, tell me how you first came to know about RHI.
Well, my story is kind of a long story. So at the age of 5, I had a tumor on my spine and I was misdiagnosed a few times. And that would have been 1976, so a lot of things are different now. I went through rehab at Methodist Hospital at the time, and as I grew up, I was very incomplete paraplegic, could stand and everything. At the age of 24, 23 actually, I had a fall on my original injury site. That original injury site ended up fracturing L1 and my original injury site, and I ended up reconstructing my spine and also in RHI. So I had been part of RHI, and this would have been 1995. Okay, I'd been a part of RHI to be a peer counselor, right? Because I was the expert, So I'd come in and talk to new injuries, and what would happen is I'd come in and see, and I knew the recreational therapist and a few of the other therapists, but that was it. It was the sports program, right? Or the pre-existing sports program. It was the recreational therapist and things that kind of brought me in, and we'd play wheelchair basketball and tennis and stuff. There used to be a little court outside back, and that was kind of it. We had a wheelchair basketball team close by that was kind of self-funded. But my injury left me in here after a very major surgery. So that's actually where I became part of the RHI family. Okay. So with that, what I ended up doing is I was in here for a little bit over a week. And the funny thing is the therapists were like, you already know how to do this. We're just trying to get you stronger. So learning to dress myself, transfer, things like that. My wheelchair didn't have brakes, things like that. It would freak the therapist out. It was like a really good relationship. And there's a few faces that are still here that were there when I was a patient. And it's kind of fun because we reminisce. And it's been over 20 years, right? So, but yeah, so there was a certain student at the time, and her clinical instructor is actually still here. And I would just freak that student out. So it's kind of funny as my life progressed. The funny thing for me, RHI and the family, is it actually led to meeting my wife here, who was a student later on. I didn't date any of my therapists, just so you know, not officially. But what it was is I came in here, I don't know. Okay, so I did more peer counseling, and then I had been doing adapted sports at Ball State where I was a student. Okay, so with the water ski team, things like that. And then John Nisley, who was part of the sports program, we did the first water ski clinic on White River, downtown Indianapolis. Don't ever do that. Spiders bigger than my hands, things like that. But it was an amazing experience, and just skiing on White River. But again, don't do that. But we actually started there. Then we ended up bringing the what was called the Indy Racers wheelchair basketball team, and notice that that's carried over to the junior team now. The Indy Racers was our wheelchair basketball team locally that partnered with our RHI sports program, and we got a relationship with the Pacers, and we became the RHI Pacers. So don't think that the Pacers did a lot at helping us with things with inexpensive uniforms and cutting some of the costs, but the sports program has been the #1 funder of all of it. So it's all been donation dollars. So we still need those. Those teams still exist. I'm retired, but we still need those funds. What it is then I started selling durable medical equipment, custom rehab equipment for a company here in Indianapolis. When all of that was actually because I met them at a water ski clinic up at Morse Reservoir. We still do that clinic too. You need to see it. It's amazing. June 18th, 19th of this year.
No, 20th
sorry.
and 21st.
19th and 20th? 20th and
We should-
21st?
we-
We'll post it.
Get
Yeah,
the
we'll
newsletter.
post
Also, so
It's on the events
I met them there, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about this?" So I started doing that, and I've done that for 21 years now. But what it is so that led me back into RHI more regularly. So even though the faces at RHI have changed, the heart's still the same, right? So they're there to help people. I see some amazing things here at this hospital to this day. There is some great research, and my specialty is obviously mobility, power chairs, manual chairs, and working with people with spinal cord injury, strokes. But some of the things I see with stroke rehab and research in the lobby just touches my heart. I just love what this place does. I always have. And like I said, the faces are different, but the heart's the same.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
I never even knew you were a patient here.
Yeah, like 6 days. 6 days.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So it's been amazing. I'm still a board member of the RHI sports program because adapted athletics has done so much for me. If you don't know, I'm a little confident, right?
A little bit.
A little bit. And it's because I've had success at all levels of competing, whether it be, I started playing wheelchair basketball when I was 15 as a kid, and I could have went away and went to school before it, but I probably, like at University of Illinois, right? They have a great program. It's been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to go there, but when I had met my wife, we weren't married yet, but we were getting serious. She was living in Iowa. Her name is Teresa, by the way. Let's give her some credit because she puts up with me 19 years later this week. So when we actually were thinking about where we were going to move, we ended up in Champaign, and the coach there at the time said, "You know what? You can move here, but you're going to be gone a lot. So if you're going to move here, you better take that in consideration." So it was all about timing, but it's all surrounded with the sports program and the adapted athletics. One of the things when I became on the board that was important to me was the kids program, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually like my little homage to the history is the Indy Racers name, because I was the first coach. I designed those uniforms, right? Red, white, and blue, Indy Racers here in Indianapolis, way before the field, but I love the field too. So that's, hockey, but it's just that grit that these kids live. And like our first college scholarship was Kyle Kilworth, right? He played on the adult team, ended up, by his senior year, we built the program around him. He held the scoring record for prep forever. So great kid, now he's a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So it is all about getting that confidence, passing it on. We had 4 kids that graduated last year that are all away playing college, and that's just basketball. Power soccer, just to see the look on those kids' face, because one of the most amazing things when I was introduced to power soccer by the Russo family, right? They used to be on the board as well, is I'd taken care of kids in wheelchairs, and done their equipment, and, trying to, sports giving you that confidence, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a tournament in Indianapolis in power soccer, and they were in the championship game, and they lost. The local team lost, but there was a young lady that was playing goalie, and she was devastated they lost, but her parents were so gleeful because she could compete.
Yeah.
Right? So they're like, and these parents had never had a chance to help her deal with defeat because she never got to participate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can help people participate, you can help them succeed, deal with defeat, just become better adapted to life, not just sports. Sports is what everybody needs to have that breakout, feeling of success or failure, and that's part of life. So give them that opportunity to be part of life.
So you're saying before she played power soccer, she never got to experience either, because she just wasn't even in the game of life at all.
Correct.
She was just a spectator.
Spectator, right? Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So it's and her parents didn't know how to. They're like, "Hey, you played, right?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, I lost."
Yeah.
Right. So so power soccer is one of my favorites. That and beat baseball, the visually impaired baseball, and I saw something about visually impaired hockey coming out, which I gotta see that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so beat baseball is another great one, and in a way, just like everybody, I'm in my own little world, right? I don't see all these different disabilities. And I grew up that way, right? I grew up in a small town. I was the only person in a wheelchair. I didn't really know disabilities, right? And a farm boy, by the way, just so you know. So grew up, and then, you know, as I went to Ball State, let's give a little homage to some more IU family. I went to Camp Riley, right? When I was a kid. I was there for 3 days, escaped in 3. Okay, that was my mentality, okay? Because I didn't know disabilities, right? Let's go full gamut, right? I didn't know disabilities, so I was scared of disabilities. I was 11 years old the first time that I ever met somebody with autism. I didn't know what autism was. I don't even think it had the definition of autism, right? I think it was developmentally delayed or
it
something.
wasn't as prevalent then
Correct.
as it is now.
Correct. So, and another little young man with cerebral palsy, right? And we were from different things, but I was scared to death because I knew nothing about disabilities. That was in the 80s, right? No curb cuts, no accessibility. We need disabled people out there. We need other people with different levels of ability so we can accommodate them so they can live, right? So let me take you my fear. So that fear then leads me to, out of nowhere, I go to Ball State at the age of 17. Again, I don't know disabilities. I get put in the dorm with other kids with disabilities. Those disabilities, I kind of understood a little bit more spinal cord injuries, cerebral palsy, things like that. They were more functionally disabled than delayed, right? Or differently functioning is a better term. We all live our life differently. But what I will say is I went from scared of disabilities at the age of 11 to Ball State, where I became president of the Disabled Student Association, representing them all. That's where I got to know all the visually impaired people. Because they had to accommodate their schedules. Ball State, right? Everywhere.
They really pioneered kind of the college atmosphere for visually impaired.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember because I went to Ball State at the same time.
Yep.
And I remember the crosswalk.
That chirping crosswalk,
chirping,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you hear it still to this day on a college campus, I think that the chirping crosswalk, the very first one was at Ball State.
Yeah.
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 It was called the scramble light.
That's
Remember?
right.
The light turns and everybody just scrambles across.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what adaptive sports did for me, is just led me into a confidence to live my life. But if you have the ability to help people adapt their life, compete, participate, you're going to change the world.
So what do you feel like RHI has done to make a difference in your life, the life of your family? Because you've been involved with RHI, the RHI sports program, the RHI Foundation, on so many levels and so many different capacities. So how do you feel RHI has made the biggest impacts in your lives?
Well, RHI for me has been about opportunity, right? So obviously my career here, right? So that helps support my family. But one thing, my wife was a student here at one point, right? So we kind of, this place is part of us, some form or fashion. The benefit for my kids though, like when they come to the water ski clinic so my youngest daughter went to the tennis clinic last year, right? So, and Julie Fritz and those, they set her up. She loves tennis, but that's her third sport now, not her, but I've got some great pictures and I'll try to forward them to you of my kids. So I have equipment in my garage of like all my sports chairs, right? So my oldest daughter, Isabel, prefers to play wheelchair basketball than stand-up basketball, because stand-up basketball is boring, right? And then she played it, and then that's not her thing, too much running. I don't know, she gets it from me. And then Lucy, tennis. But the thing about it is because they've been around me and been around here, disabilities don't scare them. And the greatest thing is where we went to school, or where they go to school, right? A lot of the younger junior, like wheelchair racers, a couple of them go to that school system. And so they're like, hey, have you tried this sport? Or hey, have you done that sport? But they're not afraid of disabilities, right? They get the whole accommodation of disabilities. And I think through living with me, and the fact that I try not to let anything stop me, or no excuses, right? So when they have excuses, because, they're preteen and teenagers, the excuses don't go well with me.
No, it doesn't.
So that's
in the Kemp house.
Right, no, it does not. So this place has definitely given kind of a nice home base for us to kind of focus things on.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, what would you like to say to our donors? You're keenly aware of how everything that we do in the sports program is funded through individual giving, grants. It's all philanthropy.
Right.
And I know you're also aware of how RHI, the research you talked about, seeing all the amazing things that we do here that's different than other rehabilitation facilities, that's funded by philanthropy. These things would not be they would not be happening if we didn't have the support of donors. The hospital itself could not fund all of these amazing initiatives that we embrace. So what would you say to the donors that invest financially in RHI to make that stuff happen?
Well, for me, what I will tell you is, if you really want to make a difference in someone's life, this is the easiest place to see it. Number one, whether it be adaptive sports program or research, the smile on somebody's face, the success that they're taking 10 more steps than they took last week, things like that, strengthening of both the spirit and the body, you cannot beat it. So if you want to make a difference and say, hey, I made a difference, and you have the financial well-being or just enough that, because every dollar counts. I've been part of this program since, like I said, 1997. And, our budgets have went up and down depending on donors like you. So, the more funds that we have, the more outreach we have. And so if you want to make a difference and you want to see it, get the clinic schedule, get a tour to RHI, just come and see what we do, and you will make a difference. Could be a dime, could be a dollar, could be 1,000, right? Just do it. Just give and help and give that ability. Because you can.
And you're a donor.
I am.
I'm a donor. So please consider joining myself and Audie as donors and change lives, because that's what we do. Thank you, Audie.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and everything that you do, all the capacities and ways that you give to our patients and our athletes and everything that we do.
I appreciate it. Thank
You're
you.
the bomb.
Thanks.
So, thank you for joining us for this week's RHI. We'll see you again next week. A special shout out for our sponsors, Wilson Kehoe Winningham, for making this happen. And we hope that you felt inspired and fueled with hope through this story. Thank you.
Thank you.